You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Folks, President Joe Biden, when he went to Tulsa, he talked about the Tulsa race massacre and what happened, and walking through the history, also noting he was the first president to do so. Also there, members of Congress, CBC members, who have been pushing H.R. 40, which is a bill that would study the impact of slavery, potentially leading to reparations. Yet privately, he has told folks that the Senate, the votes simply are not there. I've been saying forever that I don't trust white folks are going to vote for reparations. They want to vote to study H.R. 40. Congressman Jim Clyburn of South Carolina, who runs the whip count in the House, told us a week ago today they did not have the vote. So the question is, what is the path forward for H.R. 40? Let's go to my panel. Dr. Greg Carr, Chair, Department of Afro-American Studies at Howard University. Risa Colbert, Black Women and Views. Glad to have both of you on the show. Later we'll be joined by Amisha Cross, Democratic strategist. Greg, I'll start with you. You have been very much involved with NCOBRA efforts to get reparations. I have said consistently, you got to have votes. Clyburn says they don't have the 218 in the House. Biden is saying even if they get the 218 in the House, Senate votes are not there. What's next? What happens? What should happen?
It's really not that difficult, Roland. It is and it isn't. It's a matter of political will. No one is accusing the Congress of courage. Well, that's not true. I think the white nationalist party has screwed up all the courage it can with its bird chest to support white nationalism. But as far as Democrats are concerned, there are not many profiles in courage. But it's fairly straightforward. As you said, H.R. 40, since Congressman John Conyers has introduced it years ago, has been introduced just almost every session. It's finally there. It doesn't have the co-sponsors yet, but we're hopeful that it will get the co-sponsors. But that's really one track. The other track is simply to appoint a presidential commission. And quite frankly, I think that's what some folk have already begun to do. I think there are some academics, Sandy Darity being one of them that comes immediately to mind, who are quietly lobbying the Biden administration because everything that is called for in H.R. 40 could be done by executive order. And quite frankly, that's what I expect to happen. And I think politically, that is a strategy that's not only not off the table, I think very quietly that would probably be the most effective way to move forward at this point.
So with that, Reese, again, when you map out what a strategy is, and that is this here, okay? The House still has to vote. Representative Steny Hoyer has talked about, he said they were going to bring it to the floor. Now, even he's sort of mentioning something at the presidential level, which means the votes are not there in the House. Okay.
Right.
Let's say the 218 votes were there in the House. The votes are not there in the Senate, which means that those who want it have got to be pushing aggressively to President Biden, create this by executive order. Yeah. So, again, I get people who are sitting here who tweet me, cut the damn check, and I'm like, well, idiot, you can't cut the check because any appropriation has to be done by Congress. And, again, how are you going to get the votes? Okay? And so do you believe that the attempt should be made to vote in the House? Because here's the deal. If you're Clyburn or Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, do you want to bring up H.R. 40 in the House knowing full well you don't have the 218 because you risk losing?
Well, I mean, as Dr. Carr pointed out, it gets introduced every single session and never gets to a House floor vote. So,
well, remember, it got introduced. It didn't even get a committee vote. This, at least, has been voted out of committee, hasn't been brought to the floor yet. So this is the furthest it has ever gotten.
Right. And I don't think that the Democratic Party wants to, basically flat out admit that they're unserious about reparations. I mean, this is the conversation that's been going on for years now. It was actually pretty prominent in the presidential primary. And so they're going to continue to kind of deflect. And their political reality is they do not have the votes. There is no political will to get the votes in the Congress. I mean, it's getting more and more co-sponsors each session. So there is some small progress there. But the reality is that there is absolutely no interest whatsoever in the Senate to take upon this this study. It's just a commission. It's not like a check is going to be cut directly from the commission. So I agree with Dr. Carr's point. President Biden could appoint a presidential commission to study this issue. He could choose to study this issue in any number of the executive agencies, or they could form a task force, or any number of things can be done at the executive level. I don't know if President Biden is that guy. He didn't run on reparations. And I think he has limits to what he's willing to do to court the Black vote. I'm just being honest here. And so I think that he can be pressured to do something on a small scale, maybe a commission. But I think it's going to take a lot of pressure, and it's going to take a lot of, at some point, the administration, and y'all know I'm team, VP Harris, but she's not the president. And so at some point, President Biden is going to have to be forced, his hand's going to have to be forced to do something by executive order on this. It's not going to go away. You're not going to be able to appease a large swath of the Black community by just saying the votes aren't there. The votes aren't going to be there for a lot of shit. So what can you do by executive order? What can you do with your executive power? But another tack that I would say is that the next steps are really what we're seeing in the state of California. The state of California passed a commission legislation last year. That was something that Ice Cube took credit for, even though other people were working on that for quite a long time. Gavin Newsom has actually started to bring that panel together, that commission together, probably because he's up for recall. And then I think it was a couple of weeks ago where you had someone on here who successfully got a commission of sorts in their city. Also, you have colleges, you have different organizations that are starting to look into these things. So there are things that can be done outside of the federal level. There are things that can be done at every level, whether it's holding different organizations accountable, universities, companies, corporations, hell, families that had owned slaves, all kind of stuff. I think that we have to kind of look beyond just simply looking for Congress for leadership on this, because there is none there. I shouldn't say there is none. There's leadership there, particularly from the CBC, but leadership and results don't always go hand in hand, unfortunately.
See, Greg, it's interesting. I love these people out here who say, Roland, you called reparations a pipe dream a decade ago. You know why I said that? I had no faith that white people were going to vote on it. Mm-hmm. I didn't. I had absolutely no faith. And and I still don't have any faith in white people actually being honest about reparations. And matter of fact, we'll get to the story a little bit later in the show where the white folks in Ohio cut the damn microphone of a white retired lieutenant colonel who was just only stating actual history on the creation of Memorial Day. But that's a little bit later. But here are facts. Here are facts, Greg. 69% of the people who voted in the last election were white. 69%. 85% of Donald Trump's voters were white. 61% of the people who voted for Joe Biden were white. So what you're dealing with, you have about 30-some-odd Democrats who are not from black districts. They are representing people who ain't black. That's really what you're dealing with. And then for the people who are yelling, this is why we got to vote for both parties. Okay, show me one Republican. One who's actually going to vote for H.R. 40. I don't know about y'all. I ain't seen one. Not even the black ones. It is two black. One from Utah, Burgess Owens, dude from Florida. Hell, I don't even know his name. Okay? And hell, we know Senator Tim Scott ain't gonna vote for anything, ain't gonna vote for this at all. Because hell, he couldn't even vote to confirm Kristen Clark. So we know where that's going. And so this is what we're now faced with. And for everybody who keeps saying they got the black vote, they also got the white vote. And that's what you're dealing with.
That's true, Roland. I mean, Reese laid it out. I think there will be more done at the state and local level. The Evanston and the sister you had on from Evanston, and then Cobra has been working very closely with her to get some attempt at giving some financial support for home ownership. It's a form of reparations. It certainly isn't reparations writ large, but that's really beside the point. I think the deeper point is this. The reparations struggle in this country is really about America. It's not about Black people. I don't have any expectations of this settler colony turned state, and I don't have any expectations of it because I understand it. What we're seeing right now, and it's uncomfortable for people to hear, and they often hear it and then kind of pass it away, but this country is on it's entering its final stages. It may take 100 years, it may take 50 years, but what we're seeing here is probably the last chance this country has to hold together in its current form. Joe Biden, for example, suspended the drilling licenses in the Arctic. At the same time, Financial Times just reported today that the G7 countries together spent $190 billion in fossil fuel aid during this pandemic. What's going on locally in this country is really an inward turning battle over who is going to control the levers of power in a world that has already passed America by. What does that have to do with reparations? Reparations isn't just about cut the check. Reparations isn't just about financial, compensation or redressing. Reparations raises an essential question. Is this going to be a country, or is it going to eat itself? And quite frankly, all the signs point to it eating itself. So, no, Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, sure, they're a problem. But then so is Karine Jean-Pierre when she says at a press conference yesterday when Biden's on his way to Tulsa, oh, yeah, the president supports a study, but he's more concerned with dealing with systematic racism as it exists right now. Okay, sis, let's be very clear. That type of statement is absurd. It doesn't even make sense. But understand what you're doing. Reezy just said it. This is politics. Politicians aren't courageous leaders and heroes. And so, yes, first of all, let us continue to push, okay? And if we can get it to the floor, vote. Why? Because whether it passes or not, this is the litmus test.
Right. Be on record.
Be on the record, because see what these white boys and their mascots like Senator Scott have decided, they're going to die on this hill. But what they don't understand is they're going to die on this hill. And I think they don't think this. They seem to believe in something that doesn't exist. That something is a nation called the United States of America. The reparations test isn't a test of Black. It's a test of whether it's going to be a country or not, because we ain't going to just die. You understand? And the demographics are trending against them. Well, we'll talk more about it, Roland, because it sounds like every story you got tonight is more and more evidence of why reparations, it would be a better bet to invest in reparations than it would be to say no, because if you don't, we've already crossed the line where we say we're not going to take this anymore.
This is why what I keep saying, Reese, and I've been saying it consistently now for 12 years. When I drop this book next year, it's going to really explain it. We're dealing with white fear. We're dealing with white fear not just from conservatives. We're dealing with white fear from liberals, white fear from Republicans, white fear from Democrats. We're dealing with people, some who are overt and some who are covert. January 6th was all about white supremacy, white nationalism, and white fear. That was no different from the Reconstruction period in Wilmington and the 100 race massacres that took place all over the country. This is what we are seeing. What we are now dealing with, and we're going to deal with it next in the NFL story. What we're dealing with, Reese, is white folks not being able to handle that. That's why when Greg talked about settler colony, they cannot handle with the redefinition of what it means to be an American. They can't handle that we now get to actually say what an American is, what a patriot is. We now get to have a say in it, and what's killing them is they have been able to define America through their white prism all of these years, and now it's like, damn, now they gotta say so. That's why the voter suppression thing is there, because they are trying to stop what is happening. And they're trying to stop it because their children are sleeping with us and marrying us. They're trying to stop it because now their kids are learning history and not his story. And they're just sitting here going mad like, what? Oh my God, what can we do? Because an invasion is going on. It's an invasion against stupidity. That's what it is.
Yeah, but I think that we have to realize that this is their last throws. They're throwing everything
Oh,
at the
yes.
kitchen sink to maintain power.
And they
We
gonna
have
fight
to
hard.
Yes,
Remember, we had a civil war.
right. The battle lines have been drawn. You are on the side of white supremacy, all in. And I'm not going to say there is a side that isn't on white supremacy, because let's be honest, this country is a white nationalist country. Let's just be honest about that. There's white nationalism that allows us to have a little something, something, and then there's white nationalism that says, hell nah, y'all N-words can't have a damn thing. Okay, so that's kind of really the spectrum that we're really all operating under, because we can't get that much progress. I mean, we haven't made that much progress by any metric. If you just look at the economic progress, if you look at the wealth gap, if you look at the health disparities, a number of things, education, and let's not even talk about criminal justice. We haven't made a lot of progress in there, but the battle lines have been drawn. And when you have somebody like a Joe Manchin and a Kristen Sinema saying that they don't want to break democracy by getting rid of the filibuster, what they're saying is they don't want to break the way democracy works for the white minority rule that's coming. They want to maintain that white power. That is their allegiance first and foremost. So what we have to do is we have to realize that white folks, white nationalists, are not going to have a crisis of conscience. It's not going to happen. And so what we have to do is to be more strategic. When we're talking about reparations, are we talking about cut the check, or are we talking about repair? Because if we're talking about repair, if we're talking about restoration, then we can be strategic about that. We can support strategic policies that get us closer to there. If you look at what just happened with the American Rescue Plan and the effects on child poverty, that has a disproportionate impact for the Black community. When you talk about closing the home ownership gap, that has a disproportionate effect on our community. And so what we have to do is we have to move away strategically. I understand on an emotional level, I understand on a moral level why people want to say Black and nothing else, Black and nobody else. But on a strategic level, we have to identify the areas in which we are hurting the most and support not only just the politicians, but the policies, and get educated on those, on how we close that gap. Because it's never going to be a time where, first of all, the Supreme Court has already put to bed any kind of federal strict racial quotas. Like, as close as you get is the Alaska Natives. If you look at all of the government, federal contracting and things like that, that's a very specific group that's called out. Black folks, not so much. So we have to realize the political reality and get smart and get strategic and push for those things that help get us closer. What President Biden laid out were things that get us closer. It's not repair in total, but it gets us closer to what we need. Now, we could go further. We could have Black and nobody else, but when we do that, that gets us nothing, because that's not possible. But what we got to do is we just have to get a little bit smarter about the specific things that we push for, and we can identify that don't necessarily have Black in front of it. Because if we're waiting for that Black, we're going to be waiting a long ass time. It's already been 400 years, and we're going to be waiting a whole another 400 years. So let's get what we can right now. You got over $1 trillion infrastructure plan. They're talking about climate change. We need some environmental justice in that. Every aspect, we need to get in on that. And we need to find out how we can direct that money towards our community, and how we can bookmark it and earmark it in a way that still passes the racial muster from the Supreme Court and government challenges, but we still get ours in the end.
Well, look, I spent a lot of time today dealing with dumbasses mad that Reverend Barber was singing a song with the survivors, and they were like, "Oh, what y'all doing? Y'all should be doing this. Cut the check." I'm like, "Fool!" The survivors asked him to sing the song. That's why we just got to understand. And also, I keep busting bots. I keep telling y'all, when y'all see people with a name and then by 8 numbers behind their name, and then you click their bio and they open their account in April 2021 and they have 5 to 8 followers, that's a troll farm that's stirring up dissension among Black people. I keep warning y'all, the troll farms, Russia out there, they know how to push the racial buttons. And so these troll farms are sitting here slamming Biden, slamming Democrats, Black folks on the plantation. All you got to do is check the bots. And I said, y'all might want to get better with your algorithm, because see, if you keep sending names with a Black picture and then about 8 numbers behind your name, and again, you got 8 followers and you open your account in April 2021, your ass not real. You're a bot. Yeah. But again, understand what's going on there. Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.